professor because a new epithet I discovered today. Professor Palkhivala, ladies and gentlemen. I should like to begin by extending my most sincere congratulations to the principal and members of the staff of the Government Law College and the students for making it possible for us to submit our views to the ultimate masters of this country, the people, the citizens. I am very doubly happy at this opportunity. In the first place, I wanted to test the wisdom of what we are doing by the only test I as a Democrat know, the acceptance of all rejections by what we seek to do, by our people. It was this thing that prompted me to approach Professor Palkhivala when he came and deposed before the Parliamentary Committee to, if possible, arrange a debate in Bombay. Now that it has become possible, I see a refutation in this hall of the gloomy forecasts which are being made about the future of democracy in this country. Democracy doesn't mean that once in 5 years the electorate get a chance of choosing out of two equally bad men the lesser of the two. It's an attitude towards life, it's a way of life, it's a faith, it's a dedication, it's an identification with certain abiding eternal values. But the most important aspect of democracy is nothing is final in it, but by the simple process and the living process of discussion, debate, and dissent, things are continuously, eternally submitted to the scrutiny of man's logic, reason, experience, and requirement of community and society. Where this process is in practice, there may be some tramps burned in some unhappy cities, but where this process is being resorted to resolve differences, not by the process of dragging debate into the street under the garb that this is revolution, but where men will sit together and argue and be ready to submit to the final judgment after argument is over, to the judgment of the people. Democracy has got a future. I am therefore happy that this process is being demonstrated in such amplitude and with such vigor and force in this ancient hall, where many of our distinguished forefathers had come and planted the early seeds of our democracy. Today we see that whatever may be happening now and then in Parliament, which may sadden you, which may dishearten you, which may temporarily lead to the point where your very faith in your democracy may be shaken, but when I come and see this magnificent response, I think that things are not certainly as bad as sometimes they look sitting in the Lok Sabha. I was fairly well prepared, and I was going to make, I thought, a good speech, but then there is a handicap. It's very difficult to match the eloquence, the sophisticated eloquence of Professor Palkhivala. The combination of the successful advocate, the learned professor, and a man who holds a certain philosophy of life very dearly, whatever may be my disagreement with that particular philosophy. But this was one handicap from which anybody who speaks after NaniPalkhivala would be faced with. Mine is another. The chairman of the meeting, in a rather movingly generous gesture towards me, made not a particularly generous forecast for Mother India. Apart from that, when he said that I may one day become the Prime Minister, suddenly I remember one experience, having seen all the three Prime Ministers perform in Parliament, that good, cogent, relevant, well-argued speeches and Prime Ministers don't go together. So I was sometimes asking myself, was it a preparation of the mind of the learned audience that since one day he is going to be the Prime Minister, be ready for a bad speech? I think when things are being set on fire, it's a good thing that the young men and women of Bombay will come and discuss. And the third reason for why I feel happy was that Mr. Palkhivala has tried to put the issue in its proper perspective. The conclusions he tried to draw, I am going to prove you, are not so very correct and sound. But the premises on which he builds is very cogently, very lucidly, and very faithfully represented by him, as I expected of him. But when this same debate was reduced to the level of calumny and vilification, slander and defamation against me, I was wondering when shall we have the possibility of presenting so important a subject in its proper perspective. One of the deadly things that is happening in our country, that debate and discussion are receding gradually. Whatever the importance of the subject, in a pontifical manner, subjects are dismissed. Yes or no, finished. In America, on any major issue, there is a debate and they call the great debate. From the president to the university campus, everybody is agitated, everybody is worked up, everybody wants to argue. In India, the nation asks, shall India develop the nuclear capability? The Prime Minister of the day pontificates solemnly, no, and matter ends. This no in politics is becoming more powerful than amen in ancient days, and there everything comes to a termination. Whosoever tries then to resurrect the subject runs a very dangerous risk of being misrepresented and misunderstood. But we must, and particularly our city, of which all are proud, whatever the claims may be made here and there, which belongs to all of us, we must resurrect the best tradition of Bombay, that important issues shall be debated. I may tell you that I had the privilege yesterday of flying with the Attorney General of India. He expressed his gratification that we'll be meeting and discussing. He expressed his sorrow that he can't join. And therefore, I deliberately elaborated this thing. It was not just a debate, but reviving the old tradition which is in the danger of being drowned in the raucous voice of protest, where voice takes the insolence and the intolerance, where man who all feels that he is right goes to the extent of feeling nobody can be right. Democracy presupposes the man who comes with a faith thinks that he is right, but always worried that the other fellow with whom he is disagreeing may be right too. Where this kind of thing is planted, there the tender plant of democracy alone can grow. I think I am right, but all the while I am prepared to accept the possibility, though in this case a little slim and remote one, that even Nani may be right. I will now try to take the basic issues which he has tried to raise. In the first place, may I distribute your mind? I am not so arrogant. I have my degree of self-confidence, but as yet it has not broken the dam where it begins to smack of impertinence and vanity. I am not so arrogant as to either defy the Supreme Court or to defend the Constitution of India. I have the highest regard for my Supreme Court, and I am very proud that among the few heritages that are given to me as an Indian is the Constitution of India. I stand by it, and I shall do everything possible that is given to one individual to defend that Constitution. But the conception of defense very often changes and differs from man to man. I think what went wrong with the great Manusmriti, we should ask ourselves. It remains a monument to human intelligence. I think the Hindu code is something unique in the annals of man, in the history of law. Students and professors of law will tell you what a thorough system it was conceived a few thousand years ago. But what went wrong? Something went so wrong with the Manusmriti and the Hindu code that what had once made a society vibrant and powerful and free of equal men, where development was possible, some faults were there, and there was no way of amending it. This is laid down by Manu, and no one can change it. I submit to you, Mr. Chairman, had a provision been made in the Manusmriti that according to the needs of the people of India, even the Manusmriti can be amended by the people of India. Whereas Manu was great, his descendants also inherited part of his intelligence, and therefore they should have the right to amend Manu. India would never have been enslaved. India would never have been enslaved. because part of our people would not have been denied their heritage as fellow Indians by quoting the Manusmriti, Chandala, Sri, Ityadi. The Chandal, the Sri and the pig, they cannot be redeemed. This needed, if I respected Manu as I do, I needed to remove it, to destroy it, to eliminate it. This must not have been given a place in the Smriti, in the changed context of India. But Manu Smriti, great as it was, had this handicap. Now who would have been a real defender of Manu Smriti? That conservative Hindu, he said, this cannot be touched, this is sacred. Or that brave Indian who would have said, it is precisely because it is sacred that I want to preserve it by removing from it what is unsacred in this document. This is what I proceed to do about the Constitution, because I hold it very dear to me, very sacred to me. There is no question of defacing it.